Okay, this is the point at which I stopped my last video. This is the smoke map for the PD130 Passat with some PD150 changes, and it's been changed to look like this one, which is the Seat Leon PD with the 150 brake horsepower. So this one and this one are now the same. What I'm going to do now, as I said in the last video, if you watched it, is I need to look at the boost map. So I'm going to go and look at the boost map for the Passat 130, and I'm going to compare it with the boost map, which presumably is on here somewhere. Here we are, there's the boost map for that one. And I'm going to compare the two boost maps. Now, there's good reason that I need to compare the two boost maps, because there must be a difference in the boost. There has to be, because the MAF map for the 150 was flowing more air, and that air has got to come from somewhere. So it's got to have come from a slight change in boost or a redesign of the components in and around the engine. I mean, that would have a similar effect. But the designers probably want to stick to as many common parts as they can between the two engines, so if they could get away with just changing the map for the boost and not actually changing a component, then they're probably going to go for that way of looking at things. Right, now, as usual, I'm going to have a quick look at the axes first. It's always the best place to check to make sure that they are the same, because you cannot afford to make changes and then discover that the axes are different. Now that row up there all looks okay. 435, 50, 399, 20. Yes, I think they are probably all the same. Then we've got 1010 there, it's the same. And then if we look along here, they're not the same. And the reason they're not the same is here. Now that's not surprising. If you've looked at some of these videos that I've put up, you will know that we had this figure of 50 milligrams in mind constantly. Whenever something comes up to do with fueling on the PD130, we get a value in the region of 50, 52, something like that. This one is giving us 55. Now we've seen on the PD150 values on maps as high as 60. We saw 60 on the last one, the smoke map. So it's a little bit surprising that this one doesn't run to 60, but it certainly runs to 55, which is more than that one does. So again, we need to make sure then that if we were going to play with the data from this map compared to this map, that we'd copy that across so that they would match. And I'm going to do that. And again, I'm not doing it because I want to remap this as such, because what I'm trying to do is point out the differences to anybody watching these videos. And obviously the easy way to point out the differences is to get WinOLS to change the colours. So I'm going to copy that one and paste it there. And as you can see, the only difference that we've got is that that axis point is now matching that one, so it's changed from 5,000 to 5,500, or 50 milligrams to 55 milligrams. The rest of the axis data is the same. Right, now what I'm going to do is I'm going to take the boost figures and see what happens with those. So I'm going to copy those and paste them up here. And we can see straight away quite a lot of difference. Some figures have actually gone down. Yeah, we've got a few that have gone down. We've got one odd one that's gone up there for no apparent reason that I can spot. Seems well out of kilter with the rest. And then we've got quite a few of these that have gone up. Now this is not exactly surprising, is it? Because if we look at it from the point of view of what are we seeing in front of us, at the higher ends of IQ, or revs per minute, we seem to have larger values than we had originally. So that is not exactly surprising. So the pattern is reasonably what we would expect. I perhaps would have expected the reds to be more collected in this area than they were. But it might well be that this is all to do with economy. In other words, it might well be that what they've tried to do, the designers, is to keep this bit relatively okay, because when the car is operating in this area, the fueling and boost and air supply and everything will give reasonable economy still, but be slightly different over here. It's again, it's difficult to know what was in the designers' minds when they were doing this. One other thing, of course, which I haven't taken into account, but if you saw the first of these videos when I looked at the EGR maps, I did say that looking at the EGR maps made me suspect that the injectors were not the same, despite the fact that PD130 and PD150 injectors seem very similar. And again, looking at the way these changes are spread out across like this does make you wonder if the injectors are not the same. Something about the flow or the capacity of the injectors is slightly different. So maybe the 150s have got slightly different nozzles compared to the 130s. No doubt I could look that up on the internet and find out, but offhand I don't actually know. Right, so there you go. What I've done is I've pointed out the difference between the two maps, and I've now put the data from the 150 onto the 130 map. Again, I'm not suggesting you do that. I'm just suggesting that that's a way of comparing them. If you choose to do something like that and see what happens on your car, that's entirely up to you. But of course, if it goes bang, don't blame me. Right, I'm going to save this. I don't want to create a new project, so I'm just going to say no, don't create a new version. So I'm going to leave it like that, and I'm going to stop there. The only other thing to say is that I've probably got to go and look at the single value boost limit and the boost limiter next, so that's probably where I will be next time I'm talking on here.